Elaine Williams here. I am with the fabulous Michelle Molitor and Tom Collins, who have co-authored this amazing book, I Am Perfectly Flawsome. So, this just working with Michelle has changed my life in so many ways. So, we'll get into that. But, Michelle and Tom, welcome. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Elaine. I'm so
Thank
excited
you.
to be
Yes.
live streaming with you today. This is really fun. Tom and I don't get to have conversations together like this very often. So,
Great.
yay!
Yay. And Tom, where are you zooming in from, Tom?
Binghamton, New York.
Binghamton. Okay, I've been there.
Yeah,
I've done
really?
comedy all over. So,
Wow.
so for those of you, for people who are listening, how did you happen to meet and co-author this book, especially long distance? Can you tell us about that?
Sure. You want to go, Michelle?
Sure. So I'm out here in the San Francisco Bay Area, and Tom's in New York, and we met through a networking group called Boss Academy. Our friend Paul Kirch runs it, and it's a group of amazing, like-minded business owners from all over the world. It's an amazing collection of people. And I met Tom and his lovely wife Yvonne DeVita there. They're business partners, and their business is called Master Book Builders, and they help people write their books, edit their books, build their books, and publish their books. Right. So Yvonne's the developmental editor and coach, and Tom is the book builder and publisher, if you will. And I had gotten had the pleasure to do some work with Yvonne. She hired me as her coach to do some work, and we had a great time working together. And a few months after that work completed, I get this email from Tom. Hey, would you be interested in collaborating with me on this book? I was like, oh, tell me more. I was so excited. So, Tom, tell everybody how the book idea came to be, and what had you reach out to me.
I, I started working toward a book probably, I think, in 2017. I was just writing blog posts and doing some research about the problem of perfectionism and the harms that it does in people's lives. And I kept getting surprised. There are physical ailments that flow from perfectionism. There are obviously mental ones. And the more I learned about it, the more I wrote about it, I finally decided this needs to become a book. It kind of jumped the line over two other books that I had started scratching outlines for.
I love
Um,
it.
and and for the next couple of years, I worked a little, and then I had to put it aside for client work and so on. When I met Michelle, the work she does dovetails so nicely into what I was learning and wanted to write about that I figured, hey, what a great way to get an accountability partner. Hire a co-author.
That's
So that's what we
brilliant.
did, and she, all to her credit, that's how the book actually got done, was because we had weekly meetings, and we didn't want to disappoint each other, so we kept at it until it was done.
I love that. I love that. Didn't want to disappoint each other because, yeah, how many times do we not always honor our commitments to ourselves? That's why accountability buddies are the best.
Yeah.
Yes, they
Yes,
are. They are.
I
I know.
love that.
After having weekly calls with Tom and Yvonne, because she was coaching us along the way. After we completed, I was like, "Oh, we don't get to meet on Mondays anymore." Kind of
Yeah.
went into with Tom and Yvonne
You're
Withdrawal.
withdrawals.
having withdrawals, just like all
Yes.
the
Absolutely.
people in New Orleans are like so sad that the Taylor Swift, they're like Taylor's gone. Everyone's like
No.
sad. You're like Tom and Yvonne. So, and Tom, can you tell us? Michelle's a hypnotherapist and has done tons and tons of work and the does the rapid
Rewiring.
RTT,
Rapid
rapid
rewiring.
rewiring,
Yep.
which is so great. And Tom, can you tell us a little bit about, you mentioned clients. Can you say more about what you do?
Well, clients, authors, as
Oh, you're coming in a little fuzzy, Tom. I if you have any other windows open, maybe close them. Sometimes every once in a while there's the broadband thing happening. I think he said, Michelle, did he say he works with co-authors or works with authors?
Yes. So Tom and Yvonne, that is their life's work. They're brilliant book publishers. Essentially, they work with folks who are interested in writing a book or have already started writing a book and need that accountability partner to help nudge them in the direction to getting it done. Um, and so for me, I've thought about writing another book. I've written three previous books that I've co-authored with a larger group of co-authors. One, I was the editor and brought everybody together, and and so this was my first book that was just two of us, and it was just the two of us writing the whole thing from start to finish. So it was a much different experience, and the fact that they're so well versed in writing books and editing books and publishing books, it was like I got the best of all worlds because I got this amazing accountability partner to work with. And Tom's brilliant. He's a retired lawyer.
Ah,
And so that was his former career. He did that for, I think, 25 years. So he's all about the details and make sure we get all the information correct. That's why there's so much research in the book. That's properly notated all throughout the book. We actually put the notations in the margins at the point of where the information shows up in the book, and we designed the book with extra wide margins as well because we love to write in our books, so that way people can take notes and write in their books and highlight things because a book is
I
a
love
it's a
that.
breathing entity and is a friend that you hug as you read it. So we
I
really
love
wanted
it.
to make it very interactive.
That's so great. I my favorite, the artist way is like so worn and it's just so many beautiful
Yes.
things. So hopefully
Yes.
Tom can come back. I know sometimes internet can be sketchy. So Michelle, can you tell us about, one of your favorite case studies and change the names or whatever? If people are listening, I know perfectionism is so insidious. I feel like it's woven into the fabric of our culture, and especially females feel all this pressure, but I know men do too. Can you tell us if somebody's listening, like tell us your favorite success story, and I'll stop talking now.
Sure, sure. Well, when we dove into writing this book, we really wanted to look at the research of how perfectionism impacts women and men and how that shows up differently. Um, and we did our own survey, plus we pulled a lot of other research in from other brilliant folks. And in our own survey, we found that 79% of folks are suffering from perfectionism, and the vast majority are women. And so we really took that to heart as we were writing the book. And I know through my work as a coach and hypnotherapist that while I work with both men and women, the majority of women are the folks who come to me with that toxic perfectionism, which is what we talk about in the book. How do you move out of toxic perfectionism and into a place of striving for excellence? Doesn't mean we want to stop bringing our best to our work, but how do we do it without it negatively impacting our mind, heart, and nervous system, right? So one of my favorite success stories is my client Janae, and she's given me full permission to share this story. She works from home. She has her own online business, and she came to me because she had severe perfectionism that had manifested as chronic IBS, inflammatory bowel syndrome. And through our work together, she was able to get at the root cause of that issue. We realized that even though, she grew up in a loving home, her dad was her basketball coach in high school, and she happened to be the star player. And
Ooh, that's a lot of pressure.
yeah, just a little bit, right? And no matter how well she played at a game, on the way home, he would tear into her and degrade
Oh,
her performance. Well, why didn't you do this and why didn't you do that? And so it created this hyper perfectionism in her, which created anxiety, and then the anxiety manifested as this chronic IBS. So when she came to me, she had lost trust in her own body. She was fearful of going too far astray from her home for fear that her body would fail her, right? And so through our work over 3-4 months, she was able to get at the root causes, shift the limiting beliefs, literally rewiring their neural pathways in her brain from I'm not perfect enough, I'm not enough, I can't do this, to I believe in myself, I can do this, I can trust my body. And because of that, her IBS nearly went away completely,
wow.
right? And so she was just so grateful. And then several years later, she actually came back to me after she had had her first child, and she had pretty severe postpartum depression. And she said to me, "Oh, I knew that I needed to reach out to you again, Michelle, because I knew you could help me." And so we did some more work together over another 3-4 months, and she was able to reclaim her clarity and her confidence and believe in herself. And it calmed her body and her anxiety back down, so much so that um, she and her husband have taken her business to a whole new level, and she's really living her dream life now. And so it's just one of my most favorite client stories that I get to share, because it truly was life changing for her. And that's very typical for a lot of clients that I work with. So we've woven these stories into the book in different ways, shapes, and forms, to address not only how perfectionism impacts women but also men, how it impacts kids, how we can even inherit perfectionism from our parents, our grandparents, our great grandparents. We have a great story in the book. One of the chapters is on emotional inheritance, and a colleague of mine shared his story with me. He is a second generation Holocaust survivor, and
Ooh,
growing up, he always heard, well, if you don't have a PhD, then you're just an apprentice, right? Because his
oh my
grandfather
gosh.
grew up in Germany as a Jewish man, and he knew that he had to have education as the thing that would help save him and his family, right? And so that belief was passed down to him. And while he had 2 master's degrees, right? His dad was like, "Well, 2 master's degree, that's kind of like a PhD. So yeah, I'm proud of him." Right?
Gosh.
And so just the beliefs that we inherit or that we hear from our family of origin can be very impactful on what we say to ourselves, what we tell ourselves. And so there's a lot of stories throughout the book, both our personal stories and the stories of our clients as well.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm going to ask you a similar question, Tom, but I just wanted I moved to share if I may. So, anybody listening, I used to think, well, I'm not a perfectionist because I'm creative. I'm messy. I thought perfectionists were like anal, uptight, sort of like Felix from The Odd Couple, right? I thought, oh, that's perfectionist. So I that's not me because I'm, you know, but I've realized it's only taken 24 years of recovery, but I realized that in some arenas, I am totally a perfectionist and it has blocked me ridiculously. And I am just now uncovering this, which is one reason I have the best job in the world. I get to work with amazing people like Michelle and Tom. Helping them with their keynotes and their videos. So like I'm learning I'm soaking in all their goodness. And I'm realizing like I am a total perfectionist in some arenas, and it's like being in a straitjacket, and then I'm not sharing my gifts, and it's slowing down my business and how I help other people. And so if you're listening or watching this and you're thinking, well, I'm not a perfectionist, I just invite you to be open that you may be a hidden perfectionist or like a creative perfect. I mean, there's all different, it's very insidious. And this is my opinion. I'm not quite the expert that these two are. But I'm just, this book is for all kinds of people. If you feel like you might be a perfectionist, if you know you really are, if you're a control freak, if you're like, I don't know why I'm so dang anxious, blah, blah, blah. This is the keys to the queendom in my experience. And I haven't even finished reading the book. Tom, I would love to know, can you share with us something, that you've gleaned from your delving into this topic, or maybe an aha that your wife had?
Well, the biggest surprise to me that really sent me forward on the writing of the book was that there's 30 plus years of psychological research about the effects of perfectionism on emotional and physical well-being. And that as the years have gone by, it's pretty clear that it's a bad problem to have, and it's growing, and it's especially growing among young people. Um, Social media is sort of the obvious thing to point your finger at,
Yep.
and it's a documented contributor, but there's I tell the story in the book about myself. I was a lawyer for 25 years. Um,
Oh.
and yeah, and I had a home office and a sign on the wall in my home office that said "Good enough isn't," and
Ooh.
and I frequently pointed to that sign when my kids were in the room. Um, so so I realized that the problem for kids often comes from their parents or grandparents. So yeah, that was the biggest lesson for me, was to try to cure myself. And we say in the book, there is no cure. There's just an ongoing process.
We're
Right.
recovering perfectionists.
Yeah.
Recovering perfectionist. And yeah, and in AA we call that like making a living amends too,
Yeah.
of like,
Yeah.
and I if another thing I loved about this book was learning like, oh, perfectionism is a trauma response. I mean, there's lots of things, but like knowing like, oh, because I grew up in high dysfunction, crazy alcoholic stuff happening, people in prison, like, and I was always desperately seeking approval and love from, unfortunately, my stepmother, who was not capable of giving it, and I think that's what drove me to be straight A's, but also I would teach you how to do tequila shots so they wouldn't burn. Like I was very typical addict of like, I had on the outside, I was president of everything, but I was also this wild and crazy child because that's just how it was all coming out. But I was always seeking that approval. And so I feel like if anybody is listening to this and you've had any kind of trauma, and who hasn't, right? We're humans,
Small, medium, and large
that,
versions, right?
right. Smart, I'm a black belt. That's one of my jokes. But like, just like having that awareness can be freeing and healing. Like this book is so healing. I want you guys to go on a global book tour, and I want to be your agent
Oh,
because
there you go.
everybody needs to read this book. So that being said, you guys are going to be doing a live book launch signing at Barnes and Nobles. Tell us, tell us, tell us.
Yes, we are so excited. So, because we live on opposite sides of the country, Tom and I have never met. right?
Oh my God.
And
In person?
and we never met in person. And so it just so happens that Tom and Yvonne are going to LA to visit their daughter, I believe. And so I was like, well,
Son and
what if you
daughter-in-law
guys
and grandkids.
okay, yes. All the family bits.
Hmm.
And I was like, well, what if you come up here to the Bay Area and we could set up a in-person book signing? And so if I'm nothing, I am tenacious. And so we've made that happen. We'll be at the Barnes and Noble bookstore, a real actual bookstore with books that you can put in your hand and smell and touch. And
yay.
and it's going
like
to
a
be
book, like a paper book, like whoa.
actual books, right?
Yep.
Yay! So we're going to be there next Wednesday, November 6th, from 4:30 to 6:30 p.m. Pacific time. So everybody here in the Bay Area, please come on out. Tom and Yvonne and I are going to be there, along with a friend and actual client of mine, Martha McCants. She's a singer-songwriter, so she's going to bring her guitar and play some of her beautiful, soulful music that she's written. And as it turns out, another friend and colleague of ours that we met through Boss Academy, his name's David Schneer, he just finished writing and publishing a book with through Tom and Yvonne called Backbone, and he's going to be there too. So it's going to be a whole party. And the funny thing is David and I live relatively close to each other, and it was just this week on a call talking about next week that we realized I thought David lived in San Jose. He lives in Danville. David thought I lived in Calistoga. I live in Hayward. So we're only literally like 10 miles apart from each other, and we
Oh
still
my
haven't
gosh.
met.
That's
So-
hilarious.
Wow.
I love it.
is.
That happened to me. I was at a mastermind and I met somebody who was like 5 minutes from my house in New Jersey. We were like, oh my gosh. So, and they can just show up. They don't have to register. They can
Right.
just come to Barnes and Noble.
This comes
So
to the
tell
Barnes
us.
and Noble.
So it's the 6th, which is the day after the big election. So we're all gonna need love. So come. It sounds like it's gonna be super uplifting. If I was on the West Coast, I'd be there at a New York 2nd. So
Yes.
tell us it's the Barnes and Noble, Dublin, California, November 6th. What is the time again?
4:30 to 6:30 p.m. and you'll be able to get your book there and get it signed. And we're also going to have our companion journal there as well, so you can get both. And we're going to do some readings out of the book and share some of our stories about what inspired us, and some of the quotes and the stories throughout the book. And Martha McCants will be singing in and about as we have these conversations. And David Schneer is also going to be sharing some tidbits from his book as well. And he has great radio voice. So that's going to be really, really fun. His story is
We have-
really fascinating as well. So,
Fun and games and prizes too.
yes.
Oh my gosh.
Flossom,
Well, that is-
Flossom prizes.
Blossom. Yes. Pray God. All right, well,
shipping is iffy,
Tom-
but
You never know, right?
Right.
Is there anything you want to say to leave with people? Any super tip or?
we just we urge people to the ultimate advice in the book is to learn to live in the paradox of being able to strive for excellence, but at the same time embrace the imperfections in everything you do and everything you are, and in all the world around you, the people and the things around you. There is no such thing as perfect.
Ah, I love it. I love it.
Exactly.
I love it. Michelle, what would
Exactly.
you like to add in closing?
Well, the really important thing is for folks to remember that we are all perfectly imperfect. We are flawed and awesome all at the same time. And as Tom said, that applies to everyone around you. You never
Yes.
know what someone else is going through and what's challenging them. So if someone cut you off or has a sharp comment towards you, instead of either A, taking it personally, which was my personal
Which
favorite,
is
like, oh,
me
what did I
too.
do
I'm
wrong?
so sensitive. Oh, yeah.
Right? But instead, just giving them some compassion, either saying something or just in your mind's eye, like sending them. I always say I'm just sending them blessings and love, right? Because I don't know what's going on for them. They're crabby right now, and it probably has nothing to do with me. So
Yep.
just recognizing that and giving yourself grace and giving other people grace is really,
Oh,
really important. And so, one of the things that we really love about the book is that each chapter has journal prompts in it. And so, as you're going through the book, really taking time to pause and do your own self reflection so that you can get at some of the layers of your own perfectionistic tendencies and start to let them go, and find that grace and that self love, so you can have greater peace of mind and well being.
That's one of the best lines from the survey that we did. And one of the people in the older group mentioned that they had let go of the perfectionism that they had struggled with through most of their working life, and found that um, it allowed them to give themselves and those around them more grace.
more grace. I love it. Well, thank you so much for joining me. I hope this goes everywhere, and I will send you all the things when it's uploaded, and I wish you so much love and luck. I will be with you in spirit, cheering you on.
Thank you.
And please hang out just after we stop. Just make sure you hang on because it has to upload and stuff. But everybody, I can't wait. I'm so excited. This is going to be an awesome book, and you're going to save a lot of lives and change a lot of lives. So
Thank you, Miss Elaine.
thank
I
you, thank
appreciate
you.
you taking time to do this with us today.
Oh, this was
Right.
fun. Okay,
All right. Bye-bye.
I think okay. Now it just says okay. It's uploading.